This is Izzy Dakota Jones with the Art of Doing podcast for 2022. We're talking to Marc LeFrance. And Marc, let's talk about Marc. He's a great drummer, incredible singer, producer, everything. He's played on hundreds of albums, hundreds of tracks, international stars such as, Carly Simons, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, The Cult, Alice Cooper. I could go on and on. Tons of people. The Scorpions is another one. David Lee Roth, people like that. So he's been on their albums, done lots of work. Canadian stars like, he was in the band Crocus. He's worked with Loverboy. He's worked with Payolas, it goes on and on. Chilliwack. Just tons of bands. So Marc has got tons of experience in the music industry. We're going to be having a chat with Marc today and seeing what he's up to in 2022. So we'll be talking to Marc LeFrance really soon. Stick around and don't go away. This will be a great interview. Thank you.
Hello, Marc LeFrance here.
Hey Marc, it's Joe. How are you?
Good. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. What's new and exciting in your world?
Oh, it's like continuing working in my studio, which I sort of set up as soon as the COVID thing happened. So I've been doing projects at home.
Right on.
Producing stuff, and I released my last single in December, and I have some other releases coming out this year on Delinquent Records, my label. So
right on.
That are all available on streaming services such as Spotify and etc.
Yeah, right on.
And videos on YouTube. Yeah.
Good.
Go to marclafrance.com, MERC.LAFRANCE. Actually, no, there's no dot there. It's just marclafrance.com.
Right on. Cool.
And yeah.
Good stuff. So, I was looking, I was, the other day, I interviewed Dee Lippingwell. I was talking to Dee. Yeah, and she told me to say hello to you. And she,
yes, I know her very well.
Yeah, and it goes, she was saying, gee, Marc and I go all the way back to Crocus.
Yes, exactly right. I met her. I remember she did the photo shoot. We did we got the front page of Music Express back in the day. That would have been 79, 80 or something like that.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, like, I right away says, oh yeah. I says I once played with Marc, and I says when he was in Doucette for a while, right? I says and I said I played a couple of gigs. One I played with him at Shuffles in Nanaimo. I said when I was in Showbiz Kids, and I said it was lots of fun. I says and they had such a great band. I said it was a really good band.
I think if I remember correctly, it was John Rose.
Yes.
Schindel.
Yeah.
Lawrence Knight, myself, and Doucette.
Yes. Yeah, you were exactly right. And the funny thing about that is we had a single out and under RCA and Feldman and kind of went like, well, you guys are a pretty good band. They're just starting up. You might blow them out of the water. We don't know if we want you guys as a backup band, right? We're going. So Mike Falone went to bat for us, right? So anyways, we're sitting in the sound check watching you guys do sound check, and you guys, your harmonies are just like wicked, right? So I'm sitting there looking at my drummer Brian Rask, and I'm going, what is Feldman thinking? I mean, look, we're the ones that are gonna get smoked, because the band was
a fun band. Yeah, that was a fun band. That was like
wow.
Because that would have been around the period of time that early 1980.
Yeah.
Actually, or no, late 1980, because it was I moved from Winnipeg in May or June of 1980.
Right.
That's when I moved to Vancouver, and that's when I started doing tons of session work. And then, of course, I played with Doucette.
Yeah.
I remember we played. We were going to play Outlaws, and I was at Brian Wadsworth, the agent, obviously.
Yes.
Who's married to Darby Mills.
Which I interviewed them last year, yeah.
Yeah, I was at his place watching the NFL, Monday Night Football.
Yes.
And that's when I heard Howard Cosell, announce that John Lennon
died. Yes.
It was quite, everybody remembers where they were when that happened.
We were supposed to do, funny you say that, we were supposed to do the Outlaw show with you guys, and and what happened was why we didn't is because I don't know if it was Brian. I can't remember. It might have been somebody in Feldman's office wanted us to do more covers, right? And we said no. We just stood our ground and said no. Fuck you. We do what we do, and if you don't, we love playing with Jerry and everybody in the band. I says, like I said, we got to know you guys, and I got to know Jerry, and really quick, and it was fun. So we were looking to do more dates with you. We were happy as hell, but like all of a sudden, it was just like, no, you got to do more covers. We went, no, forget
it. I remember that night too, because when we went to play, Giuseppe, we used to do at the end of Mama Let Him Play.
Yeah.
He'd break into Hey Jude, like musically, right?
Yes, that's right.
Do like the guitar in his guitar solo.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the night when he continued doing that after that, where he stopped and said, "Everybody, this is for John." Right? It was like that was the night that he did that, obviously because John had just been assassinated. So.
Yes. I remember that, and I remember we came back after we played Shuffles, and because it was snow that weekend, a lot of snow, right?
Yes, there was a lot of snow that Christmas as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, like this year, and it was really weird, I just came back, and it just, I had weird dreams too, like I don't know what about, and I can't remember on the ferry boat coming back, right? And then that night, I remember we weren't sure if any of us were going to come down and see you guys because we weren't mad at you guys. We were just pissed off at Feldman. And so we ended up like I stayed home with my girlfriend and watched the football game, and I saw that too. And I was totally choked at that point myself.
Of course, those were the days when it didn't just snow outside. It snowed inside as well.
Yeah, no shit. I think we did 2 nights with you at Shuffles. I think it was Friday and Saturday night, if I remember correctly. Yeah, because I remember that.
Did, yeah.
I think Jerry had a really sore throat. He was having a bit of a problem with his throat, and he came to me and he says, Joe, I just watched you do your backup and do your sound check, and I really like your singing. I says, oh, thank you. And he just says, what do I do? And I says, well, you can't do a lot. I says, just maybe take some honey with lemon or something, and just relax. Try to relax. Don't talk a lot, right? Friday during the day, and just, Friday night, just do it again. He went up, he was fine. Friday, Saturday night, I just looked at him afterwards. I says, were you joking? He goes, what do you mean? That was great.
That was definitely a fun club to play.
I know.
We did a reunion party for them. For Shuffles, I think it was actually at the old venue.
Oh wow!
With Cease and Desist about, who knows? I've lost track of time with this band because of course.
Yes.
Nick and I just celebrated November 1st was 36 years that we've been playing together.
Wow.
And this February we celebrate 33 years of Brent playing together. That's with no band changes, of course. Guys do come. Dave Reimer's been a regular sub in for either Nick or Brent over the years, but we've never stopped playing as a band. I mean, obviously 3 of us play with Randy Bachman as well, but it's quite an amazing, lineup of guys that stuck together through thick and thin, through failed marriages and all kinds of other terrible stuff, and some amazing stuff, of course.
Yeah. You know what? You guys are like I remember when you played that union dance that I was in the union I was for the Hospital Employees Union. Like when I was up on stage with you guys, I really meant it. I meant like I said, these guys are like my. I look up to these guys a lot because when I was, playing in the bar circuit, I was just starting out. You guys were there, right? And so it was just like, because I remember back, I think the first time I saw you guys play, you three, I think I saw you at Fram's. Remember?
It's possible, yeah.
Yeah, at Fram.
We first, cause it's funny because 1985, that's when. I can't remember. I think it might have been Mike Filoni actually phoned me up. Said, hey,
fun you say that.
Yep. Want to come and play with Nick and Jeff Neal, Paradox? They're closing down. Outlaws was closing around that.
Yeah.
And so I said, yeah, sure, I'll come and do that. And that's what we used to come and do. We do just the weekends. Yeah. And we play on whatever band was playing there. We do the last 2 sets. We do 2 50-minute sets on the weekends.
That's right.
And that's kind of how we came together.
Because funny you say that. See, Mike Filoni did sound for us in Showbiz Kids. That's where I met Mike, and then Mike, and then what happened with us at one point, we got tired of playing the clubs, and then so we decided, we're going to start doing a lot of more recording and do our original stuff, and we started doing that. So Mike took the PA and the lights, and he went to Gary Taylor's, and he became the house sound man, and for all the stuff there, right, for a while, and that's how he paid his bills. And then how we kept playing is, we had to still make money because we were typical musicians back then. We didn't have day jobs, so we just, like, what we did was we just went to Bob Seagull and we got a small little PA system. We just played the dive bars, and we made tons of cash. We were going, after a while, we're going, this is great. We can stay in town, for the next 3-4 months and just play 5 or 6. We used to play Jack's Hanging Tree, which is now the Roxy, right? And we used to play all those type places, and and then, like, when we'd play a bar like that, and then we'd have a few days off. Like, that's one time, that's where Mike said to me, he says, come down to Frams and come and see Paradox, right? You guys will really like it, right? And we came down and checked you guys out, and we just went like...
Because it was 1985. Jeff was with us for a short period of time.
Yeah.
He went off to play with what's his name, Australian guitar player, the legend.
Jim Barnes.
Jim Barnes,
yeah.
Jim Barnes. He played with him, and Mike Sicoli came and played with us for a couple of years.
Yes.
And Brent came in. I guess it was about 3 years later.
Yes.
So because we used to play all of those. It was quite the circuit back then. I feel kind of bad for the bands now. I mean, if they're whatever rock bands or bands that are around, there's really not many.
There's nothing left.
Then used to play where you can actually make a living playing.
Yeah.
Because we actually, at that time, I mean, a lot of people will say to me sometimes, wouldn't it be great if we could go back to the old days? And, and I'm saying, hold it a second. Are you talking about, like, playing in a bar 6 nights a week and making like $200? I don't think so. But anyway, at that time it was, it was a great thing back when it happened. Because we didn't have, huge families and to support and that kind of thing. But,
I know what you mean, because I know people say that and to me too, and I'm kind of thinking, you know what? Yeah, I made like $200. The sound man made like about Filoni made $500 a week, and the light man made $300 or $250.
Yeah,
and I'm making.
I remember we used to. It was like you'd make like all this money for a week. I think it was like $4 or $5 grand. By the time you paid the PA company, the sound guy, the light guy, and whatever, and the payment on the 5-ton truck to haul the crap around, you had $150 to $200 for each guy in the band.
I know it's terrible when you're on, and for like us, we were on the fucking road sometimes. Excuse my language. We're on the road, and in a couple bands I was in the beginning, and it was just like. I mean, back in the early days in Showbiz Kids, there's sometimes we'd go on the road, and in the gate, we'd show up, and the bar didn't even know we were coming. So
I know. Yeah.
I
remember. I go probably back even a little bit further because I was my first band from Winnipeg called Musical Odyssey. We hit the road, and back then you'd play sometimes a month in a venue, like in Saskatchewan.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I remember. Getting a gig in Kelowna for 2 weeks. We finished playing the first week, and then halfway through, a new ownership took over, and we're sitting in the band house, because they had a band house, and the new owner comes in with a new band, and he goes, "You guys are out of here. I got the new club. Get out. We got a new band." So you were stuck like in Kelowna, and I mean, it all worked out. I think a couple of guys went back to Winnipeg, and there was back then. In Vernon, there was another great club owner who had a little van with some kind of it had what do they put on the like a mobile home kind of thing.
Okay.
Stay the week. He let us stay the week. Use it and camp around. Okanagan Lake or Vernon or Kalamalka, so you always made it work somehow. But the way it was back then, you'd have weird stories like that happening. Where okay, you're out of here.
I know. We did that because, like I said, we played, and then we'd come back, and then like the agency would say hey, you owe us for this room and that room. We go, what are you talking about? You didn't book it. They go, what do you mean? Well, we played for the door. And, it's funny because they wouldn't pay it. The guy says, one place in, I think it was Soyuz, said, you guys can play for the door. So we said, okay, we'll do that. We're here now. What the heck, right? So, we made more money playing for the door for 2 nights, than we did just playing normally for commission, right? And with the commission from the agent. So when we got paid, the guy says, "Oh, you owe me for this club and this club." We go, "I don't think so. You're not getting a red cent." What do you mean? No, we're not paying you for this room and this room. We ended up going there, and this is what happened. And he goes, "Well, I did call the guy." Says, "Well, he's denying it. So that's your problem. You go get the money after him, right? Don't get us to chase it, right? Wow."
Yeah.
I know, and I don't. So that's where I'm like you. In some sense, I've had lots of fun, but I don't regret the money. It was just not there. It just wasn't there. I was doing the wrong thing. It should have been a sound man or something.
Yeah, no kidding.
So when I'm looking through the stuff, when you start, I look through the bio and stuff, and I know this too because we talked a little bit before. All the background stuff all the vocals that you've done in the studio. You said before you just sort of got word to go down to like was it like Little Mountain and all that, or where did it start?
Yeah, what it was. I moved to Vancouver in 1980. Well, of course, before I would the band Crocus, not to be confused with the band out of Sweden.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
We were CROWCUSS, but we formed in '76. And of course, around that time, I was doing a lot of session work with Bill Wallace, who ended up who was the bass player with the Guess Who.
Yes.
And ended up being the bass player and one of the singers in Crocus, as well as Greg Lesky. So Crocus had 2 ex Guess Who members.
Yeah.
And we were together for 4 years, so we were traveling around. So we had built a bit of a reputation. So by the time I got to Vancouver, I'd done a ton of studio work in Winnipeg at Little Mountain at Century 21 and Road Studios.
Okay.
And so, doing jingles and other albums and stuff like that. So when I moved to Vancouver, I had a meeting, I think the first or second week that I moved here with Brian Griffith from GGRP, Griffith, Gibson, Ramsey. They were a jingle production company in Little Mountain Sound.
Oh, cool.
And they actually owned Little Mountain Sound at one time.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, I had a meeting with him, and I played him some of the jingles that I did in Winnipeg and my Crocus albums. And right there in that office is one of those like magical moments where he went, listen, he phoned up ACTRA, got me signed up with the ACTRA Singers Union at the time, or actors as well. And I started doing tons of jingles from that point on, and out of those jingles, of course, that's how I ended up meeting Mike Fraser and a number of other Bob Rock eventually. Although I have a different story of meeting Bob Rock, but it was from that I ended up getting involved in the album work. So
great,
which ended up having about 10 to 15 year run. And of course, there were a lot of other studios at the time too, like. Different production like Coco Productions and Westward Communications.
Yes.
And so I started doing, you'd be traveling around these studios doing a lot of session work. So that's kind of how that all came to be. And it was a magical, Little Mountain was a magical place at that time. Yeah.
I mean, because I've been in there. I've never recorded in there myself. Well, I did. I went and recorded far after that. With some people asked me to come in and do some backgrounds and stuff for them, and I just I could see it. You could see where it all came from, right? You could tell. You could tell that it had a lot of creativity. The building smells that. You know what I mean? It just has that essence, right? Yeah, that's amazing. I mean,
it's crazy too because at that time I just shortly moved. From Winnipeg to relocated to Vancouver, and I was starting to do sessions with Adams because he was doing a lot of commercials and stuff too. And I knew Paul Dean really well from Winnipeg when he played
Streetheart.
Cocaine, and he was a big fan. He'd come out and see Crocus all the time. I remember when they were just putting the band together in Calgary.
Right.
They're putting Loverboy together.
Yeah.
Reno and Paul were out at our gigs when we did some warm-up shows with Goddo.
Yeah.
And so we always had a pretty good connection. So when I moved, I got invited to see, it was Bryan Adams and Loverboy were performing at the Cave.
Oh, yes.
So I was at the Cave, and, you know, I was waiting for, I can't remember what band to come up, but this guy comes up to me, and I always tell people, you know, say, always be careful how you treat other people. You should always be nice. It doesn't matter, because you never know who's going to talk to you or that kind of thing. Well, this guy comes and talks to me, and you were nice. We had a great conversation, and, you know, had a drink together or whatever it is, and the guy says, man, I saw you warming up Goddo at the Commodore. Love your voice, love your drumming. Well, that was Bob Rock.
Right on.
So there you go. That was another, those two moments with Brian Griffith getting the jingle thing happening, and then that moment with Bob Rock. Well, he was, eventually I saw him at Little Mountain because he was working, learning his trade with Roger Monk, who was kind of like the head engineer there, who pretty much trained Fraser and Bob Rock.
Wow.
Yes. And so, you know, just being at the right place, the right time, and then you'd be in there doing a Chevy ad, and you'd be sitting in the front lobby, and then Bob Rock would walk by and say, hey, Marc, I'm doing this band. I'm doing a band called The Cult next week. Can you come and do some backgrounds for me? You know,
yeah.
Sure. And then you'd be in doing The Cult, just sitting there, and then you'd be, you know, having a coffee, waiting to go do some background vocals, and one of the GGRP guys would, hey, Marc, we're doing a McDonald's ad tomorrow. Can you come in and do it? And then some days I just go in there and just to have a coffee, because one of the ladies' mums had a great little kitchen in the back that she made sandwiches and stuff for lunch. So I go there, have some lunch and a coffee. I'd be sitting there and walk by, get a session, you know. It was super magical, and, you know, really, you know, I mean, I look back at those days and just the amount of work, the volume of work. I mean, it was easily over 100 albums or something like that.
Wow. Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got written down here. I mean, then, you know, I'm thinking too, like, funny you just said that too, because of the show at the Cave with Bryan Adams. Mike Filoni was doing sound.
He could have very well did.
He was.
Because it was Adams was just getting started.
That's right.
Coming up, Loverboy.
Yes, because Steve Weeks was playing keyboards.
That's right, and I think that.
Yep.
It was Paul.
And my cousin Brian Rask was running cable, and that was our drummer. So because Mike and Brian were really tight, right? They went to school together and grew up, so they were tight. And I remember being at that show. That was a good show. That was an interesting show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first time I really got a good look at watching Bryan Adams play, because I've seen Brian in Sweeney Todd, right? Which I thought, I didn't think much of that. I mean, I liked Sweeney Todd. I just didn't think he fit with them, you know. I mean, it was a step up for him, you know, when he got that gig, right? You know, but I mean,
he just has that. The Adams. Well, first of all, I mean, there's. You know, I've had the pleasure of being on tour and seeing quite a few, working with a couple of different acts and seeing how they perform.
Yeah.
And we did, with Bachman Turner, we did a tour across Canada with Paul Rogers. And there's a guy that is like this guy every night, man, is singing. It just blows you away.
I know.
There's another guy like that.
Funny you bring that up.
He sings, he's amazing in the studio, but he's also amazing live. The guy just, his pitch is great. His tone is great.
Yes.
We did a show for the Prince Harry when he was just engaged to.
I know who you mean. Yeah.
Meghan Markle.
Yes.
Anyway, we did at the Invictus Games, and it was a while. You know, Brian and I hadn't seen each other for a long time, but it was just great to sit down. I actually sat down and had a good chat with him for an hour or so.
Wow.
And plus, you know, it was amazing. It was amazing because we played with Bruce Springsteen, and
wow.
And it was Bachman Turner, Bruce Springsteen, Bryan Adams, Kelly Clarkson. It was like an amazing lineup of people and different actors, and even Biden was there because Obama was still president. So it was like I I've never seen security in my life like.
Oh, I bet.
In Toronto at the time it was the Air Canada.
Yeah.
Center or whatever, but it was. But then seeing Adam sing was it's amazing.
Yeah.
That was to see him put things together like in those early years and how consistent the man has been. He's one of those guys that just really is continuously doing stuff.
Yeah.
Guys that just don't stop.
It's like D said. D said that he's cocky, but it's not cockiness. It's confidence. Like she said.
It is confidence. But he's a great guy. I mean,
he's a nice person. I've met him.
I've never had. Every time I've been around him, I did actually produce. When he produced Carly Simon, he hired me to do background vocals.
Oh, cool.
That particular track that he was producing. That was when he was still living in Vancouver.
Yeah.
He's in West Vancouver, so it's pretty amazing to be there, sitting in his house. He had his studio, his basement, but the basement faced the beautiful inlet in West Vancouver.
Wow.
The water. I'm sitting there singing to Carly Simon's voice while Adams is producing me. It was, my life has been full of those kind of moments, and sometimes I sit back and I think about that stuff, and I go, because when you're doing that, when you're going through that at the time, you like it, you love it, you enjoy it, but in retrospect, when you look at the volume and the amount of times that kind of stuff would happen, it's just sometimes you overwhelm yourself because you go, did I really do all of that stuff?
Yeah, you did, Mark. You like you said, you were at the right place at the right time, right? I mean, and you just seem to, like you said, you're I've met you, and not just saying this, not just a backhand compliment. You're a really nice person to talk to, and you're really up front. So it's that's what I've always noticed about you, right? And you and another guy, like when we go back there for a few minutes to do set, Brent Shandell, another really nice person.
Super guy and great guitar player.
Yes.
And songwriter. He wrote a lot of some of those hits he did All I Want to Do. There was tunes that he contributed to that, especially that first Doucette album.
Yeah.
And then of course you had Doris Maxwell.
Yes.
It got, may he rest in peace, one of the best drummers I've ever seen live in my life. The guy was like an absolute monster.
Yeah, he was, character.
I mean, I remember when I was playing with Doucette, and we were doing a show in the cave, and Filoni was mixing us. After we finished, Doris came up, and we were chatting for a bit, and he looked me straight in the eye. I don't know if you ever met Doris, but he's very...
I have met him, yeah.
And he looked me straight in the eye, and he said, Mark, if I ever find out that you quit drumming and singing, I'm going to find you and break your legs. So that was his way of giving you a compliment.
Yeah. That's wild. And when you...
I never did quit doing that. It's because of Doris. And I know he's passed away, but I'm afraid that if I stop right now...
He could come back and get you.
I'd be down.
And funny you say that about what's his name too, Paul Rogers. I met Paul Rogers I'll tell you this quick story. It's funny. I'm playing this little bar out in Harrison Mills called the Sasquatch, right? And we're doing a Sunday afternoon jam. And who rides in on a bunch of Harleys is Paul Roger with a bunch of his friends. Yeah. So he's sitting at the back of the bar and having lunch and, having a beer and stuff. And we're setting up to do the Sunday afternoon jam, which we're really choked because we just played Friday and Saturday. And then we're coming back out and doing this. So we're setting up and I look at my guitar player. And my guitar player at the time, his name is Larry Davies. And Larry used to play in the Hard Rock Miners. So he's a great fiddle player, great guitar player, and he's from London, England, right? So, anyways, just long story short. So I said to Larry, I says, hey Larry, is that who I think it is, right? Over there in the corner. He goes, yeah, I think it is him, right? So I look over, and I don't mean to stare, but I look kind of, a little more intent to see if it's him. And he looks at me and he goes, yeah, it's me, right, like this. Yeah. So I walked up and I talked to him. And he asked us, he says, can I come up and sing a song with you guys? And I said, fuck yeah. So he came up and he sang, him and I traded off, we did Stormy Monday Blues, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah, well, he's a heavy blues guy, but he was amazing every night. He just came, he always came and did, gave a 150%. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's amazing, like you said. That's amazing. And I mean, so now, another person you've been playing with quite a bit too is of course Randy Bachman, right? So
Yes. Actually, it's been, I think it's 12 or 13 years.
yeah, you and Mick have, right? Yeah.
Well, Mick actually started playing with Randy before Brent and I. I think Mick's been with him for almost 20 years.
Wow.
He was still playing. He is still playing with us.
Yes.
But because obviously Randy, when you're playing with Randy, you're not playing like every weekend, every day. You do tours and that kind of thing. But so I think he's coming. I think he's been there at least 20 years. And then Brent and I joined. I think it was 19. No, it wasn't 19. It was 2000. 2000. Well, 12 years back, whatever that is. I'm not so good at math today, so. But yeah, he's been wonderful to work with. We're actually getting ready to do another tour coming up in April. If everything
goes well, yeah.
Plan.
Yeah.
I'm positive that hopefully we're going to get through this and we can get back to work. Lots of work booked, and we're just waiting for the go ahead to be able to do it, right? So.
Yeah, and how about and so I hear rumor of him also playing with Burton again too, right?
Yeah, he did a show last year in Winnipeg, and yeah, I think they may be doing some shows as well. I don't know I don't know of any of the confirmed dates. I just know that we're actually doing some dates with Randy, because usually when Randy plays with Burton, they usually use Burton's band. So
okay.
Yeah. So.
That
You never know.
That's what I mean. You never know. Maybe you guys will end up playing with Burton too, right?
Yeah, you never know. I don't know. I think his band is pretty tight with him. You just never know. I guess it depends who's healthy and that kind of stuff too. Because in this day and age, I'm almost afraid to look at Facebook these days. Every time I look at Facebook, it's somebody that's younger. People that are younger than me are dying now. So
you just never know, right? I know.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, and to think about, like, I'm thinking about like all these years when you ceased to exist. Did am I right or am I wrong? Wasn't Keith Scott with you guys for a bit?
No, Keith Scott is he's come and sit in with us. We did like a wedding one time where he came. A friend of ours, one of their family members was getting married, and he was at the wedding, so he actually played most of the night with us. But he used to come and jam with us from time to time. But he lives. I think he doesn't live in Vancouver anymore. He lives in his wife. He lives in San Diego or something like that.
Oh, he's living in a nice place, nice and warm place.
What an amazing guitar player.
Yeah. And then another guy that you and I know that kind of manages. He doesn't, but he helps us a lot. Is Jay from LA.
Jay. Jay. I just talked to him the other day, actually.
You did, eh? Yeah, I interviewed him again. We talk all the time. I just sent him one of our brand new tracks, and he says, I just love it, right? So we finished recording with Bill Buckingham, which you know Bill, right? Yeah, Bucky, as they call him. So we just finished recording with Bucky, and Jay always says, oh, yeah, I know Marc really well, and he talks to me about, he's great.
We've been doing some Zoom, like he's working on some documentaries, so I kind of...
Yes, he told me that, yeah.
So we've kind of helped him, or, he interviewed me on some different stuff for the Motley stuff, and we're going to do some stuff with Mike Fraser coming up soon.
Good.
Little Mountain Sound, just do a little thing there. But, Jay's a great guy. We go back to, when I, with Delinquent Records, doing all my... NEDM and PopCom and different conferences.
Yes.
We used to run into each other all the time at those various conferences. So
I know, he's such a nice guy. I met him about 20 years ago, and we've done his music conferences that he has in LA at least 3 to 4 times, and he's treated us really well. Every time I go down there, he's given us such great shows to play at too, right? We played the Hard Rock in Los Angeles, and we met a lot of great people down there too. A lot of great artists. So it's and he'd come and see us at the Whiskey and stuff, and and you know, and then he's always helping us out and telling us, hey, you gotta try this, go here, do this. I want you to fix this, and you know, he's really nice. Right? Everybody in my band just loves him. He says, you know, he's great.
He's a super guy. Yeah, I think the first time I met him was I think it was at Meet In or Popcom, and we've been sort of in contact ever since.
Yeah,
he's a good, super guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's doing a documentary on Motley Crue.
Yes.
There's a couple of different stuff. I've been doing there's another one. I think there's a documentary that they're working on for Little Mountain Sound. So a lot of sort of, you know, in retrospect, a lot of that stuff people are interested in what happened, because it was such a, you know, special period of time for creativeness and all these.
Oh yeah.
You know, people don't realize how many huge, you know, all these huge records that came out of Little Mountain Sound,
like huge,
even to this day, out of the Armory and the Adam Studio, the Warehouse. So that it's still happening. Not as pronounced as it was back in the day, but you know, because the budgets were so much bigger and stuff.
Yes, and then there's also Did you ever work at Mushroom at all?
Oh yeah. In fact, the very first Crocus album was produced we did it in 1977 at Mushroom, right around the time when Doucette and Hart and stuff were recording. We recorded our first album there.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up. Keith Steen produced it, and he had worked on the Doucette record. So that's actually Crocus. We did a lot of dates, warming up Jerry Doucette back in the day, as well as Cummings, and we do crazy stuff. I remember we did a show. We finished working on our second album actually at Century 21. We were working partway through, and then we drove to Toronto to warm up Cummings at the CNE, which was a huge show. And then we drove in less than a week. We stopped at Winnipeg for a little bit and drove all the way to Vancouver, played at the P&E at the Coliseum to warm up Prism. So it was like that wasn't flying. That was like driving, you know, with gear and all. So I think we lost 2 transmissions in those particular journeys. You know, you remember those days too. It's like whenever there's going to be a week when the band was going to get a nice bonus.
Yes.
Your 5-ton transmission would go. It'd be like a $2,000 or $3,000 bill or something like that.
I know. I remember. We used to rent those. You know what we used to rent? We used to rent a wreck.
Yeah.
Get those Rent-A-Wreck vans. The odds on favor at going very far wasn't very good, right?
Well, we actually bought in Crocus. We actually owned our own 3-ton or 5-ton back in the day. Because back then, remember, you had to. Yeah. It wasn't like, you know, now, you know, you fly to gigs, everything's supplied. I don't even bring drums. I don't never bring drums with me on tour anymore. It's just everything is supplied everywhere. So
I know.
It's great in that. And everywhere you go now, it's like, you know, you ask for DW drums or Yamahas or whatever, very consistent brands. Although I love Ions, but they're not. You can't find as many good sets as you can of those bigger name brands. So,
yeah.
You know, you can get whatever you want. And usually it's great gear, so it's never a problem. But back then, you had to travel with all your
That's right. Lights and everything. We used to have the whole 9 yards.
Crazy.
I remember in one band we had the keyboard player had a beautiful B3 Hammond organ, and the sound crew was getting really pissed off. They're going like, "You got to get rid of the Leslie in this B3. It sounds great."
No kidding. But they sure sounded great. But I mean, to be carrying that kind of stuff now, it'd just be crazy.
I was carrying it up the Commodore stairs, you know.
Yeah.
It was like at the back, I could hear the sound man just really bitching, right?
Yeah.
I want an extra $50. What do you mean? You already get 500 and I get 2.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, wow, that's amazing. You know, so right now you're just recording it, like you said, and then getting ready to go back into. I've been recording a bunch of stuff myself. I have a partner, Roger Frankham, out of Australia, and we've been collaborating on some tunes for a band called Thunderbird. And plus, if you go to marklafrance.com, you'll hear the latest stuff. I haven't put, it's mostly my solo stuff. Right. And my whole back catalog goes, back years.
if you go to delinquentrecords.com. I've been recording a ton of stuff and doing backgrounds and working on the various projects for hire.
Yeah. That's great. That's good. Because during these times, things are just really weird, right? We're going through this.
Well, it's been great just having it's amazing what you can do now with a decent recording program. And all you got to be able to do is get a good WAV file for somebody, and as long as it's an uncompressed, no effects, clean vocal, whether it's background or lead vocal or whatever, and then you can work with whoever you want in the world just by sending these files amongst each other. It's an amazing way to work right now, and you think, and each tune gets its own. The diversity of the material that I've had, it's not all rock. I did my first song that I released last year. It was called Be Kind, and basically it's piano with a string quartet.
Wow.
And then I did, Nick and I did a song called Angry right after that. Be Kind to Angry, but and it was more of a rock groove, raunchy kind of tune. And then a lot of them have been. My latest one, Secret Agent, is like, again, more of a, almost like a James Bond theme. So
cool.
It's just been fun experimenting with music, because it's the first time in my life where, I've always been I've done tons of studio work, especially back in the Little Mountain days or whatever. You're singing on these huge Motley Crue or Bon Jovi or the Cult, Scorpions, Donna Summer, Carly Simon, all these different, Last Tiger, tons of these different big bands. But, I've always, during that whole time period, I was still, playing live with Nick, or, when I first moved here, I played with Trooper, I played with Straight Lines, I played with Sherry Ulrich, I played with a lot of different bands.
Yeah, that's right, you were with Sherry Ulrich. I forgot that. I remember seeing you.
I did 2 or 3 albums with her.
You did. Not funny you bring that memory back to me, because I remember seeing you with Sherry Ulrich. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
She's wonderful, very, very talented, super great voice, and wonderful human being.
Because a lot of people,
and again, that was like, so many diverse, different styles. Right?
Yes, and back, like, why I get excited listening to you talk about that is because when I was a little kid in Vancouver, like a young teenager, I was playing music then, but I was developing, but I'd see bands like Seeds of Time, right? Early Chilliwack, which I know you played with Bill, and early Chilliwack with Claire Lawrence and all that, right? And all these bands back then that were like, when I was talking to Brian Wadsworth, Brian and I were talking about that stuff, because I worked with Brian too, like, for a long time too, and not just as an agent, but he also managed one of the bands I was in. But so I got to know Brian really well. And I love Brian. He's great. He's honest as hell.
Super guy.
And he talked to me about I talked to him all about there was so much originality in the early days here. There was a West Coast sound, and he said,
or there was different West Coast sounds, because there was so many different. That's another guy that I wrote, amazing songwriter. I did an album with him for Capitol Records. I think actually that was the very first album I ever did at Little Mountain Sound. Bruce Miller.
Oh yeah.
He had written a big hit for Prism.
That's right.
And he'd also written a hit for since then he lived in Nashville for a while, and he wrote stuff for Reba McEntire and all kinds of different people. He's become quite a successful songwriter.
Mm.
So just these different. And Brent Shindell and I played in his band.
Right on.
With Dave Pickell.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Dave Pickell.
I remember Dave Pickell. Yeah.
And who's played bass player with Doucette? Donnie Cummings.
Yes.
Who has since passed as well.
Yeah.
But you think of the amazing musicians and the different styles. It's quite a significant trough of talent too.
Yeah. I just, because funny you bring that, because like I said, it's just, I remember thought of all these people, and Brian and I were talking, and I was just saying, Brian was telling me, I says, didn't you guys ever think, just really, when you were with Bruce Allen and Sam, didn't you guys ever think of really developing that kind of going in that direction, right? And he says, we did in the beginning, and then what happened, he says, that's why I left. He says, then all of a sudden it was just about the money.
Yeah.
And he says, and then just about the agency making money. So that's when the cover bands they put more effort into that. He said instead of taking the original bands and really shaping them and forming them and putting maybe a label or two in Vancouver together, that could be
Well, they did try to do that.
They did, didn't they?
When Cliff Jones was there, another guy who's passed away, who was actually the guy that brought who was the original manager for the Payola.
Yes, right.
Got Bob, and then Bob ended up going with Bruce Allen. But I mean, there was a time when they had their own label, and there was money with Factor, and they were trying to do that, but it's not easy to. I mean, let's face it, this business is. I was talking with somebody today, or somebody posted something where you have to have a hard work ethic, the label, the producer, the songs. You have to have all of that stuff lined up, but you also need luck.
Yeah.
And that sometimes that doesn't show up, no matter how good. Look at how great that I did. Was it Blue Murder? It was a great album. It's Carmen Appice and Tony Franklin, I think, on bass. And John Sykes. Amazing record, man. Listen, and it's still. I mean, a lot of these records that weren't huge popular at the time now are getting. They're getting streamed like crazy.
Yeah.
And they're getting more response now than they were back then. It's funny how that can happen. It's just like I did David Lee Roth album I did called Little Ain't Enough. I did backgrounds on that Bob produced. At the time, it wasn't considered a huge success, but now it's getting, maybe because David Lee Roth and of course the whole Eddie Van Halen passing away, it gives, it sort of puts a spotlight on, on the separate band members and stuff, right?
It gives them some credo, yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing, yeah.
But
I said, it just, I did it. You just brought me back when you said that with the Sherry Alec thing, because I was just going like, wow, because I remember, like, I'm going right back to like that time I came up on stage with you guys at the Union thing. That when I was there, I really meant that. I go like, what, I know these guys for like since I was young and starting out, and these guys are like, been here through this whole scene, I mean, like, you've seen Vancouver go up and down and everything and change and everything. And I was telling that to Jay too. I says, wow, it's just amazing. Like, Jay, I know, and Jay's been to Vancouver a few times, and he says, he'll ask me what's happening with this part of the city and that, and I'll tell him, and he tells me what's going on with LA, because that's another place I love. LA, like I told that to Mick.
I love Jay. Actually, I think he used to live in Portland or something like that.
He went to if I'm correct, he went to school. Went to university. Not Seattle. He went to Washington State University.
Oh, yeah. So that's why. Yeah. So he spent a lot of time up in Vancouver. I know he told me that.
Yeah, he used to come because him and I were talking about. Did you go to the Queen concert when they were here with about the Coliseum, Joe? And I says, yeah, I was there. I went to that show. He says, yeah, I came up for it, and he says, what a great show. He said, we were talking, going on about all the stuff, and he says he helped different bands when he always liked Canadian bands. He told me, he says, that's why he worked with me too. He says, the reason I like your band, Joe, is because you guys are from Vancouver, and I have tons of respect for that, right? And I said because he broke, he said I help with bands like the Guess Who and that to break them into the U.S., right? Different bands, Street Heart. He was talking about Street Heart and stuff too, right? Yeah, unreal. Because then you knew the Winnipeg scene, right, where you originally came from.
Winnipeg was an amazing place to come from too. I mean, it was, and still, I mean, there's so much culture because it was right in the middle of Canada, middle of nowhere, and especially when I started playing, seeing the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, 64, and then a couple of years later, a band from my hometown, the Guess Who, make it, which gave everybody. Then you could, you're seeing these guys playing in community centers. Next thing, they were big. They were, having number one records. So it was like, you saw that and you went, oh man, I could do that. So, it really gave you the inspiration. And then of course I had the good fortune of playing with two ex-members, and now I'm, met Cummings when I was doing session work with the band I was in, Musical Odyssey, at the time, at Road Studios. So he was just starting to work on his solo efforts and stuff. So
That's
there was
amazing.
always, there was always that connection somehow. I've always had some kind of connection with Winnipeg.
Yeah, because another guy that
now with Randy, right?
Yes, and another guy that I know and and Mick knows is also, I'm trying to, Danny Casavan. Danny.
Oh yeah, Danny. Yeah, of course.
And I see Danny every now and then at Glenn's music store, West Coast Guitars. I go by there because it's in my neighborhood, so I'll pop in and say hello to Glenn and Shannon. And so I see Danny pops in every now and then. So Danny and I have long talks, right?
Yeah.
About everybody, right? You guys and everything, and the Winnipeg scene, and Glenn and Danny were telling me how they used to in Winnipeg also bump into and meet Neil Young in the early days too, right?
Yeah, Neil was there. He was a little bit before my time, but I know Randy talked. Randy had a lot of, and Jim Cale was actually pretty tight with him as well back in the day. And
yeah,
I think his very first band. I remember. I think they had a hearse or something that would cruise around our field, driving around St. Patal, where I grew up when I was a kid. Yeah, Winnipeg was like almost like the Liverpool of North America at the time. There was like from the time the Beatles hit and then the Guess Who, there was a band on every street. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, that's what sort of started happening here, because when I was a kid at the P&E, we had a thing called Teen City, and during the P&E time, and so it would be all local bands.
Yeah.
And so, Seeds of Time would be playing, the Poppy Family would be playing.
Yeah.
It would be not the Chilliwack, it was Collectors at the time, and it was like, it was a great place to go. And then it'd have not Law McQuaid wasn't there yet, but they'd have music. They'd have a store. A guitar store selling their stuff. They'd have another place just selling incense. It was very hippie-ish, right? But it was really cool, and you could go there in the daytime, nighttime, anytime, as long as P&E was open, and you paid $5, and you could stay in there all day. And it was a huge part of the thing. They had 3 stages and 3 tents. And, I'd go there and I could stay and I'd watch the Poppy Family play, Mark. And then a little bit later, you'd see Collectors play. And then, a little bit later, you see Seeds of Time, Jason Hoover,
It was crazy when you think, Winnipeg, Terry Jacks.
Yeah.
Manitoba, where Terry Jacks.
Yeah.
Tom Cochran, Bob Rock.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing when you think of the amount of some of the early people that came out of Winnipeg. So it was definitely an amazing place to grow up in. For me,
bet.
Anyway,
I bet it was very inspiring for you, right?
Yeah, it really was, because you get to see these. I remember my first concert going to see the Who. It was in '68 at the Winnipeg Arena. It was the Who, Herman's Hermits, and the
Blues Magoos.
The Blues Magoos.
I saw that. That was my first concert too, at the Agrodome in Vancouver.
I was in '68, and then in 1970 we had Man Pop, and it was a big festival for the celebration of Manitoba Centennial, and I got to see Chilliwack, the Youngbloods, Led Zeppelin, Iron Butterfly, all of these bands.
Yeah.
I remember Zeppelin was amazing, and then not that long after that, or around that same time, Randy had left the Guess Who, so the Guess Who had a free concert in front of the Winnipeg in the legislative buildings, and I got to see the Guess Who with Kurt Winter and.
I just say that, yes.
It was just amazing. So it was quite a time.
I remember that too, because when you're saying that too, back then, I was telling Dee in my recent conversation with her, she says, well, what did you see in the early days as a little kid? I says, well, I saw Hermits, open up for, the Who open up for Hermits.
Yeah, it was the Blues Magoos were their opening act, and then the Who, and then Hermits and they sounded amazing. All of them sounded amazing.
Really good. I couldn't above the girl screaming, because I remember that's all I.
The funny thing was too back then. Of course, I'm not sure what happened here, but in Winnipeg, you had they just played through the public address systems.
Yes, they did.
They might have had little PAs in the front.
Yeah.
But it was. Aside from that, that's all they had. They went through the public address systems and the little PAs of some sort. Of course, by the time in '70, they did actually have more of a real PAs happening.
Yeah, yeah,
So it was
yeah.
nothing compared to what we have now.
No comparison. And I remember when, and then like I was telling you, the next week, you know, and I mean after that, you know, I'm hooked, right? So the next week I go and I see Janis Joplin, Big Brother and Holding Company.
Yeah, because they had that train that went across Canada, right?
Yeah, and I saw that show, and
Yeah.
then I saw, the Cream the next week after that, and so I saw like all these concerts, you know, and I told her, I says, I wish I had a camera, Dee. I says,
Yeah.
I says because, you know, I can vaguely remember a lot of this stuff now, you know. I says, but I says, you know, all I needed was a school new. All I needed was a newspaper, you know, thing to go around and sell newspaper. You have a newspaper route as a kid. I says because concerts were like $5. You know, I could go.
I know it's cheap and amazing. You go $5 for a show. And I remember seeing Three Dog Night.
Oh, yeah.
I saw them about 2 or 3 times. They're amazing.
They were. I saw the Doors. I saw the Doors twice. I when I was like, tell Glenn this story. I was on the stage. Jim on the first show, '68. He invited everybody up on the stage. So I climbed up on the stage, Mark, and I sat between Robbie Krieger and Jim Morrison. And I'm looking out at the crowd, and I'm like 11 years old, right? So
Wow.
I'm looking out at the crowd, and I'm like getting scared, right? I'm going like,
Yeah.
what am I doing up here? And Jim had a girl on the other side of him, and she started crawling up his leg, and he just looked over at Robbie, and he went, now. And Robbie started soloing in the middle of this verse, and he just grabbed the girl, and he bent her over, and he kissed her, and then she fainted. And I just looked at him, and I just, wow.
That's funny.
I just went, wow. And then we all got thrown off stage, right?
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, those concerts were like, yeah, they're totally inspiring, right? You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and then you guys, like I said, then you guys came out this way, and that's interesting. I mean, have you gone back to Winnipeg?
Oh yeah, I'm back. Oh yeah, I've been back. I got a lot of family back there, so we're going to be doing some shows there with Randy in I think the end of April. So
Good.
We're doing a casino gig there, I think. So yeah.
Good. That's great. I mean, that's great. I hope you guys get back out. I hope we all get back out and play some more live music. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we'll get back at it. I think I like to remain positive about it. But
Yes,
in the meantime, like what can you do? You just sort of I'll keep recording.
You know, recording's great. I was going to say that to you. You must love the art of recording. I love it.
Oh yeah.
I love the process.
Especially now, like you can work with so many different people to get, like I said, every song ends up being a special, different. It ends up being so different, and it's fun. I'm having a blast doing it. I'm enjoying working on helping other people create stuff, and it's definitely for me. It's been a win-win as far as the getting my student. Like I think I forgot what I was saying earlier, where when I started doing, I finally started recording, being able to record with the COVID thing, whereas before I was on the road all the time.
Yes.
You know that if you're going to go do a gig, next weekend, even if it's a local thing, because I like to play as much even locally as I can, because like to keep myself in shape.
Yeah.
So, but if you know you got to do that, you go, you know what, I'm not going to record. I'm going to wait. You just always postpone stuff. So now I didn't have any choice. I had to do something. So got myself a good microphone, a good program, and
away you go.
Uncle. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, there's nothing like it, and the only thing we do differently now is we do a lot of streaming. Streaming
Well,
a lot.
yeah, that's what it is. So
I mean, we've been doing,
everything is streaming now. But I mean, I just do. All my stuff's available on, like I said, through the streaming services are definitely the future. I mean, selling CDs and albums are fine if you're playing live and signing them and using them more it's more like just an added bonus thing for a fan if they're into it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Right now, streaming is where it's at.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that before I let you go. Yeah, I think that's where the industry is going. Jay was saying.
Well, I think it's going. It's there.
I mean, it is there, and I mean,
obviously, there's niche vinyl, and CDs. Come on, I don't even have a CD for. I do have one if I have to put it in, but nobody. Well, like CDs for me, I can get music. You can hear anything you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's so wonderful because you can, everything's at your disposal.
Yes.
And you can't look at it like we used to look at it. Oh, man, we sold 1 million records. You go, what is that? That doesn't even mean anything anymore. It's like, because now, like the bigger artists, they're not selling. It's not like a million streams. It's like they're doing like over 2 billion streams over the course of.
I know.
So if you do 2 billion streams, you're making serious cash.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're only streaming, you have to stream over 1 million to even be making money. But I mean, if you're big enough and you've got something happening, and if you start streaming in serious amounts, you're going to make money off it. But it's just a whole different industry now, and we all just have to realize that's the new reality. Things change, and if you don't go with the changes, you're just going to disappear.
Yes, that's why, like, we stream live all the time, and the weird thing for us, like being an independent band, all these years, we gain. We're like, we'll do a show, and we're getting. I was telling Jay, we're getting 2,000 people.
Yeah.
Watching us live all over the world, and I'm going like, play a bar in Vancouver. We don't get that, I mean, or we play in, even if we
15 people show up.
Yeah, exactly. You play,
but it's still. I mean, I don't
but
know.
so
I still get it. I'm sort of the old school where I could be playing in front of 5 people.
I know my band's like
in front of 10,000 people or whatever.
Yeah, I know it. It's
you do. You still, if you got people who are coming out and they're digging what you're doing, and playing is wonderful, and no wonder. It doesn't matter what level, or if it's in a little bar and you're getting your jollies off, or you're in front of 100,000 people. It's
all the same. Yeah.
Playing.
I agree with you, because lots of people, the people in my band say that. We love the streaming. It's fun. It's great. And we play in front of more people. We get it, but they'll tell me, they go, Joe, I don't mind going down and playing the Princeton Hotel on a Friday night with, 30 people in the bar. I love it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And then I just go, okay, so we'll go play the Princeton.
Yeah.
Who cares? Let's just have some fun. But you know what, Mark? It's great talking to you. I really.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for having me, and it's been a great pleasure to reminisce, go back memory lane there.
It's great talking to you, and I wish you all the best coming up. I have tons of respect for you. You know that, right?
Hey, will you take care, and
we'll talk soon, and say hello to Mick for me. Tell him I say hello, okay?
Okay, you take care.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.
Well, that was Marc LaFrance and LaFrance. What can I say? Guy's done everything. He's an incredible singer, an incredible drummer. There's nothing more you can say about Marc, but he's cool. Stick around for more stuff coming your way on the Art of Doing podcast. Art of Doing, Izzy Dakota Jones, signing off. See you later.